Nia Imani never panicked. Panic was for people who reacted instead of planning, and she had never survived by reacting. She stood in the airport restroom, staring at her reflection, adjusting her scarf with slow, deliberate movements while chaos waited outside. Her phone vibrated once. One short message. They're here. She did not swear. She did not rush. She simply exhaled. She had known this moment would come. You could not move millions of dollars across borders, clean dirty money through innocent hands, and expect the world to stay blind forever. The mistake people made was thinking escape was about speed. It wasn't. It was about timing. Nia slipped the phone into the trash bin, removed the SIM card with practice fingers, and flushed it away. Then she reached into her bag and took out another phone. Smaller. Older. She stepped out of the restroom not toward the arrivals hall, but toward the service corridor she had memorized weeks ago during casual airport visits. She smiled to herself. While Odora waited under the electronic board, while Galani held his grandmother's hand, while the airport announced the landing of the London flight, Nia Imani was already disappearing. She moved fast now, but not visibly so. A hurried walk, nothing more. People never noticed what looked ordinary. At the exit, she heard shouting behind her. Radios crackling. Footsteps accelerating. Too late. She slipped through the sliding doors, merged into the crowd, and stepped into the waiting car parked exactly where it was supposed to be. The driver did not look at her. Gate G is compromised, he said. I know, Nia replied calmly. Drive. The car pulled away as sirens began to echo behind them. She leaned back, finally allowing herself a breath. Her husband would be landing any second now. Kwesi had always believed silence meant safety, that if he stayed calm, answered politely, and trusted the process, truth would rise on its own. That belief was already dying as he sat under the white interrogation lights, his wrists aching slightly where the cuffs had been removed, his mind struggling to keep up with the words being thrown at him. Mr. Hale, do you recognize this account? The officer slid a printed document across the metal table. Kwesi leaned forward. Numbers blurred for a second before settling. His name was there. His signature. His email address. Yes, he said slowly. That's my account. But I didn't open it for that purpose. For what purpose did you open it? Another voice asked from behind the glass. Kwesi swallowed. My wife asked me to. She said it was temporary. For an overseas expansion. A pen paused midair. Your wife, the officer repeated. Nia Imani. Yes. There was a look exchanged. Not surprise. Confirmation. Mr. Hale, the first officer said, folding his hands. Over the last 18 months, this account has received funds linked to 5 different shell companies. Those companies are connected to fraud, illegal asset transfers, and at least 2 missing persons cases. Kwesi felt his chest tighten. That's impossible, he said. I work in logistics. I barely understand half of this paperwork. You understood enough to sign, the officer replied calmly. Kwesi's voice shook. I trusted her. Silence. Trust was not evidence. Across the city, in a quiet apartment that smelled of fresh paint and anonymity, Nia watched a muted news channel. Her hair was different now, shorter, darker. Her face was bare, her clothes deliberately plain. On the screen, the words breaking news crawled across the bottom. Business consultant arrested at international airport in financial crimes probe. They did not say her name. Yet, she sipped her tea slowly. Everything was unfolding exactly as expected. Shock first. Confusion. Public judgment later. By the time they looked closely enough, she would be a ghost. She opened her laptop and logged into an offline drive. The files stared back at her like obedient soldiers. Audio clips. Transaction logs. Video snippets. Insurance. If they came for her, she would burn everything down with her. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she counted to 5. Then she picked up. They have him, the voice said. I know, Nia replied. What about the others? Panicking. Good, she said softly. Fear makes people sloppy. She hung up and leaned back. Kwesi was stronger than people realized, But strength didn't matter in cages built from paper. He would try to explain. He would cooperate. He would hope. Hope was dangerous. Back in the interrogation room, hours had passed. Kwesi's throat was dry. His jacket lay forgotten on the chair. "Do you know where your wife is now?" the officer asked. Kwesi hesitated. "No," he said honestly. "I thought she was on the flight." The officer slid another paper forward. A still image from a security camera. Nia, scarf adjusted, eyes calm, walking away from the gate. Kwesi stared. Something inside him cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to change shape. "She planned this," he whispered. No one responded. For the first time, Kwesi stopped defending her. Outside the building, rain began to fall. Inside, files were opened, timelines constructed, lies separated from facts. And somewhere in the city, Nia Imani packed a second bag. Because she knew one truth better than anyone else. Stories never end where you want them to. They end where someone else decides to speak. By the third day, Kwesi stopped asking how long it would take. Time inside detention was not measured in hours or meals. It was measured in silence. Long stretches where no one spoke to him, where the walls seemed to lean closer, where his own thoughts became louder than any interrogation. He replayed everything. The first meeting. The way Nia had laughed at his awkward joke. The confidence she carried so effortlessly. Like she had never doubted a single decision in her life. He had mistaken certainty for honesty. They brought him documents in waves. Some he recognized. Some he didn't. But all of them carried his name. "Do you know this man?" an officer asked, placing a photograph on the table. Kwesi looked at it. A middle-aged man with tired eyes. "No. He disappeared 6 months ago. His last transaction was approved through your account." Kwesi's hands trembled. "I never saw this. You approved it at 2:14 a.m. Kwesi closed his eyes. Nia used to wake him up gently on nights like that. Kiss his forehead. Say she couldn't sleep. Ask him to sign something quickly, so she could stop worrying. Love had been her password. Across town, Nia sat in a cafe near the bus terminal, watching people come and go. Transients comforted her. No one stayed long enough to notice patterns. She was already planning her next exit. The city was temporary. Always had been. Her phone buzzed again. This time she frowned. "They're pushing him harder than expected," the message read. Nia stirred her coffee. "Let them," she typed back. "He won't break." But even as she sent it, doubt crept in. Kwesi was predictable in love, but pressure changed people. Guilt changed them faster. She accessed her encrypted drive once more, scrolling through files she hadn't opened in years. One folder caught her eye. Odora. She clicked it. Audio recordings played softly through her earbuds. An older woman's voice. Calm. Sharp. Asking questions she was never meant to ask. Nia's jaw tightened. She had underestimated the old woman. Odora hadn't been loud. She hadn't threatened. She had simply listened. That was dangerous. Back in detention, Kwesi sat alone when a different officer entered. Younger. No folder. No egreschen. "I'm not here to interrogate you," he said, pulling out a chair. "I'm here to understand." Kwesi looked up, exhausted. "Then you already know I didn't do this." "I think," the officer said carefully, "that you didn't know you were doing it." Kwesi's breath caught. The officer slid a single page across the table. A timeline. Nia's travel records. Her unexplained gaps. The way transactions aligned perfectly with her movements. "You were a shield," the officer continued. "And shields break first." Something shifted. For the first time, Kwesi wasn't just a suspect. He was a victim. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight slipped through the narrow window, touching the edge of the table. Kwesi stared at it like it was permission. "If I help you," he asked quietly, "what happens to her?" The officer met his eyes. "That depends on how much you're willing to tell." Across the city, Nia felt an unease she couldn't explain. She packed faster now. Less precise. Less calm. For the first time in years she made a mistake. She reused an old route. And somewhere, Odora finally decided that silence had protected the wrong person. The day started gray, The kind of sky that presses down on the city, heavy with clouds and silent warnings. Kwesi woke in a narrow cot, the scratch of the fluorescent light above him making him flinch. The timeline the officer had shown him yesterday had replayed in his mind all night. Every signature, every transaction, every piece of proof that tied him to Nia's schemes. It had been his love, his trust, his blind faith, turned against him. He didn't hear the footsteps at first. A soft knock came, barely audible over the hum of the ventilation. Kwesi Vance, a calm female voice asked. Yes, he croaked, his throat raw. I'm Detective Zuri Banks. Her badge glinted in the dim light. I think it's time you know the full picture. Kwesi's eyes narrowed. I've already seen enough to know I can't believe anything anymore. Zuri sat across from him, her posture straight but relaxed, the authority in her eyes firm. You can't believe anything about her. But you can believe me. You're not guilty of what they're accusing you of. But right now, you're trapped in her trap. She's careful, brilliant, and dangerous. Kwesi swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Zuri slid a tablet across the metal table. Maps, timelines, photos, and intercepted calls filled the screen. She underestimated one thing. Someone was watching. And that someone is your mother. Kwesi's heart skipped. Odora? Mama. How? She's meticulous, Zuri explained. Quiet. Observant. Not a cop, but smarter than most. She noticed things you didn't. Small mistakes Nia made. Conversations. Phone calls. She traced the pattern. And she never let go. Kwesi leaned back, feeling the weight of relief mixed with dread. So what now? Now, Zuri said, we fight smart. She's not just after money. She's after control. And she knows how to manipulate anyone who cares about her. The only way to catch her is to use what she thinks is safe against her. Across town, Nia Imani tightened the straps of her backpack. The cabin she'd been hiding in had been abandoned for nearly a day, leaving only digital traces behind. She glanced at her phones, encrypted lines, burner SIMs, false emails. She believed herself invisible, untouchable. But instinct told her something was wrong. Every shadow felt like it followed her. Every passerby's glance seemed sharp, calculating. A cold sensation ran down her spine. She checked the drives hidden inside her bag, nothing missing. Everything intact. For now, back at the detention center, Kwesi's resolve hardened. I want to do whatever it takes, he said. To stop her. To clear my name. Zuri studied him for a long moment. It won't be easy. She has layers, and she's built them over years. But she made one mistake. She underestimated the Vance family. Kwesi's hands clenched. Then let's make her regret it. Meanwhile, Odora was back at home, reviewing every note, receipt, and calendar entry from Nia's past year. She traced trips, meetings, even the small gestures of generosity she had shown as camouflage. Every tiny inconsistency was a thread waiting to be pulled. She found it. The small but crucial discrepancy in Nia's story. A flight Nia claimed she never took. A meeting she claimed was cancelled. A package that didn't exist. Odora's lips pressed into a thin line. That's it. That's the crack in the armor. Episode 4 ends with a quiet storm brewing. Nia believes she's untouchable. Kwesi finally begins to understand the web he's caught in. And Odora, silent, patient, and determined, is ready to strike at the one weak point that could unravel everything. The Real chase has begun. The morning air was sharp and cold, carrying the faint smell of wet pavement and distant smoke from the city. Odora sat at her kitchen table. A pile of Nia's documents spread before her like a battlefield map. Every envelope, every receipt, every small note had become a potential key to unravel the mystery. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline that had replaced despair. Zuri's call had come early. Her voice was steady, professional, but the tension underneath was palpable. Mrs. Vance, we've traced some of the burner SIMs. Nia made a small slip. She contacted an unknown supplier yesterday. We have a location. If you and Kwesi are ready, we can move. Kwesi, sitting across from her, felt his chest tighten. He had spent weeks imagining this moment. Finally taking control, finally confronting the person who had destroyed his life. But now that it was here, fear clawed at him. Odora reached across the table, gripping his hand. We've come this far. We can't turn back now. Meanwhile, Nia Imani moved cautiously through the streets of Atlanta, her senses alert to every detail. The hard drives, the burner phones, and her carefully encrypted devices were in a bag slung over her shoulder. She had moved from place to place for days, always thinking 3 steps ahead, always trusting no one. She paused at a small cafe, checking the encrypted chat on her tablet. A message blinked. Shipment received. Targeted client satisfied. Status clean. A small smirk appeared on her lips. Everything is still under control, she whispered to herself. No one can touch me. But instinct whispered otherwise. The hair on her neck prickled. A sensation she hadn't felt in years. A genuine threat, close and tangible. Back at the safe house, Zuri laid out the plan. Maps, surveillance photos, and timelines covered every inch of the table. Kwesi, she said, pointing to the photo of Nia's last known location. She's careful. But even careful people make mistakes. We move in quietly, observe, gather proof, then confront. You do not approach alone. No hito weeks. Understand? Yes, Kwesi nodded, his jaw tight. I just want this nightmare to end. Odora spoke next, her voice calm but resolute. We find her. We prove the truth. And we bring my son home. The operation began at dusk. A gray haze settled over the city as Zuri's team, clad in black tactical gear, moved silently through the streets. Kwesi and Odora watched from a distance, hidden in the shadows, feeling the tension in every heartbeat. Inside a small apartment, Nia worked on her laptop, unaware of the eyes tracking her movements. She hummed softly, a tune she hadn't sung in months, her confidence unwavering. Then, a faint click, almost imperceptible. She froze. The hairs on her arms stood on end. Something was wrong. At that exact moment, a camera from Zuri's team captured her movements. The audio feed picked up faint sounds, the shuffle of papers, the tapping of fingers on keys. Every gesture, every detail was being recorded. Nia's smirk faltered as she realized she was no longer invisible. Outside, Kwesi whispered to Odora. Is she alone? Zuri's voice crackled through the earpiece. Yes. But keep calm. We have visual. Wait for my signal. Nia's phone buzzed. A message appeared. Check outside. Delivery is here. Her eyes narrowed. Something in her gut screamed danger. She slid the tablet into a hidden compartment of her backpack, grabbed her bag, and moved toward the door. Fast, silent, calculated. The early morning fog clung to the streets like a shroud. Odora stood at the edge of the Blue Ridge cabin clearing, her eyes fixed on the distant treeline. The crisp air filled her lungs, but it did nothing to calm the storm of fear and rage inside her. After everything that had happened, the arrests, the betrayals, and the harrowing near accident, she had never felt more determined. Beside her, Kwesi tightened his jacket against the cold, his hands clenched into fists. Mama, today we end this, he whispered, his voice low but steady. I can't let her keep running. Not anymore. Odora nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She had watched her son suffer for months, enduring shame, fear, and humiliation for a crime he didn't commit. And now, the moment to reclaim justice had come. Inside the cabin, Nia Imani moved swiftly, her mind calculating, her instincts razor-sharp. The past few days had been tense. She had noticed the increased surveillance, the faint traces of law enforcement sniffing too close for comfort. She had carefully encrypted all her communications, hidden the external hard drives, and rotated her burner phones. But even she couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. A soft click of a window latch made her freeze. Her sharp eyes scanned the perimeter through the glass. Nothing. Probably just the wind. Yet her gut twisted, a sense of imminent danger she hadn't felt in years. Meanwhile, Zuri and her SWAT team had taken positions around the cabin. The tactical radios were almost silent, broken only by brief, coded updates. Zuri's sharp eyes never left the cabin, her mind calculating every possible move Nia could make. This is it, she whispered to herself, adjusting the earpiece. Everything comes down to this moment. Kwesi and Odora were hidden a few hundred meters back, observing under the cover of trees. Kwesi's hands shook slightly. I've waited so long for this. What if she has traps? What if she's ready for us? Odora placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Kwesi, listen to me. Fear is normal. Anger is fuel. But don't let it blind you. Watch, wait, and act when Zuri gives the signal. Through the radio, Zuri's voice was crisp, commanding. Team positions locked. Wait for the moment. No mistakes. Inside the cabin, Nia paced. She sensed something off. Too quiet outside, too perfect. She moved to the side door, preparing to leave when a sudden noise from the back room made her freeze. The door creaked slightly, almost imperceptibly. Her heart raced. The adrenaline she had relied on for months surged. She grabbed her bag containing her devices and stepped cautiously toward the exit. Outside, the team watched, every muscle tense, every finger ready on triggers. Zuri's voice came through the comms. Move. Now. The perimeter doors banged open. Tactical lights flashed, and the team converged. Nia froze, realizing her escape was cut off. A tense standoff erupted. Nia's eyes darted between the officers surrounding her, calculating, looking for a way out. Kwesi stepped forward, voice shaking but resolute. Nia, it's over. Give it up. Nia laughed, a harsh, cruel sound. Do you really think it's that simple? She hissed. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Zuri advanced calmly, her tone icy. We know exactly what you're dealing with, Nia. And you're done. Drop everything, or this ends badly for you. For a moment, time seemed to stretch. Nia's eyes flickered between desperation and defiance. The weight of all her crimes, the collapse of her carefully constructed empire, pressed down on her. Finally, with a frustrated scream, she dropped the bag. The devices clattered to the floor. The team moved in, cuffing her efficiently, while Kwesi exhaled a long, shaky breath. Odora rushed forward, hugging her son, tears streaming down her face. This is justice, she whispered. It's finally real. As the cabin cleared and evidence was secured, Zuri approached Odora and Kwesi. The hard drives are intact, she said. Every transaction, every victim, every call, it's all here. Nia can no longer hide. Your son's name will be cleared. And the people she scammed will finally get answers. Kwesi's relief was overwhelming. Mama, she's gone. She can't hurt anyone else. Odora held him close. No, my son. And from now on we rebuild. Together. The morning sun bathed Atlanta in a soft, golden light, but for Odora Vance, the brightness did little to warm the cold ache left behind by weeks of fear, uncertainty, and heartbreak. The city was waking up, cars rushing down streets, people hurrying to work, life moving on as if nothing had happened. But for her family, the nightmare was finally coming to an end. Kwesi sat at the kitchen table, a steaming cup of coffee between his hands. His eyes were still weary from the ordeal. Dark circles etched under them, but the tension in his shoulders was easing. Odora entered quietly, carrying a tray with breakfast. She set it down gently, watching him closely. Thanks, Mama, he said softly, glancing up with a small, grateful smile. Odora sat across from him, exhaling slowly. It's over, Kwesi. Nia can no longer hurt anyone, or you. Everything the police found. Your name will be cleared completely. The truth is finally out. Kwesi nodded, but the relief was tempered by months of betrayal. I trusted her, Mama. I can't believe I didn't see it coming. His voice trembled. Odora reached across the table, taking his hand. You didn't see it because she was brilliant at hiding it. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. And now we move forward. Together. Outside, the media had already caught wind of the arrests. News helicopters hovered over the Blue Ridge cabin site earlier, reporting that the FBI and local authorities had captured Nia Imani along with her accomplice, Darius Scar Mitchell. The stolen money was being traced back to the victims, and Kwesi's name was cleared of all wrongdoing. At the precinct, Detective Zuri Banks watched as officers transferred the confiscated devices and hard drives to secure storage. She allowed herself a small sigh of satisfaction. Justice had been served. Later, Zuri met Odora at the police station to explain the next steps. The evidence is airtight, she said. Kwesi will be exonerated officially, and Nia faces serious federal charges: money laundering, fraud, and conspiracy. The courts won't go easy on her, especially now that Darius has confirmed everything she orchestrated. Eudora felt a weight lift from her chest. Thank you, Zuri. For everything. Zuri gave a small smile. It wasn't just me. It was the work of the entire team, and your courage, Mrs. Vance. You stayed strong when it mattered most. That evening, back at home, Eudora and Kwesi unpacked small boxes of letters and mementos that had been neglected during the chaos. Galani, their young grandson, sat nearby drawing colorful pictures of a sunny day, oblivious to the dark events of the past weeks. Kwesi leaned down to hug him. I missed you so much, little man, he whispered. Galani hugged him back tightly, tears of happiness streaming down his cheeks. Eudora watched them and felt her heart swell. Despite everything, the family was whole again. They were battered, yes, but unbroken. The next day, Eudora visited the elderly neighbors who had been victims of Nia's schemes. With the help of the authorities, restitution payments had begun, and many were able to recover a portion of their lost savings. Some families even visited Kwesi personally, expressing gratitude and relief. One afternoon, while Eudora sat in her garden, she received a call from Zuri. Mrs. Vance, Nia has officially been charged and is in federal custody. All evidence points to her being the mastermind. The courts will see justice served. Eudora's hands shook slightly as she hung up. For the first time in months, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long while. Hope. Weeks passed. The Vance household slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Kwesi went back to his carpentry work, creating beautiful furniture, and teaching Galani small woodworking skills in the garage. Eudora resumed her retired teacher's life, spending mornings reading and afternoons tending her garden. One bright afternoon, they hosted a small family gathering. Vera, loyal and supportive throughout the ordeal, was there, along with a few trusted neighbors. The air was filled with laughter, warmth, and the comforting scent of home-cooked food. Kwesi raised his glass to everyone. To family, he said, voice steady and full of emotion. To truth. And to never letting anyone take away our love or trust again. Everyone clinked glasses. Eudora felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in months. The battle had been long, painful, and terrifying, but it had forged a resilience stronger than anything she could have imagined. That night, as the Vances gathered in the living room, Eudora looked at Kwesi and Galani, her heart full. We survived, she whispered to herself. We survived and we are stronger for it. The past was painful, yes, but it had also revealed the depth of courage, loyalty, and love within their family. And while scars remained, they were marks of survival, proof that no darkness, no matter how deep, could overcome truth, justice, and the bond of family.